The Chicago Bears had UNC running back Omarion Hampton and Texas A&M edge rusher Shemar Stewart visit Halas Hall on Monday. Who would you select between the two? Let's talk about it.
Bend over to your right. What the was that? What's up, Bears fans? People want to hear me talk.
What's going on, Bears fans? And welcome to another episode of the Nicholas Moreano Show. I'm your host, Nicholas Moreano. Make sure to give this show a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Tell a fellow Bears fan, and also let them know we're on, your audio platforms as well. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. You can find the Nicholas Moreano Show there as well. But it's going to be a fun episode. We have two very different prospects to talk about. Obviously different positions, but different in what they did in college too. So let's just kind of get into this. We first have Tom Pelissero, who kind of put out a tweet as the Bears pre-draft visits wind down. Texas A&M edge Shemar Stewart is at Halas Hall today. That was on Monday. And Iowa running back Caleb Johnson will also visit this week. The final day for visits is Wednesday. Caleb Johnson is at Halas Hall actually today, which is great. Always, another Caleb in the room. Caleb Johnson, Caleb Williams, Iowa Hawkeyes. Great. But also on Monday, according to Omarion Hampton's Instagram story, he was also at Halas Hall, posted. And that's where I want to take this discussion. There will be another day to talk about Caleb Johnson, which I'm looking forward to getting to doing that. But today is all about Omarion Hampton and Shemar Stewart. And like I prefaced in the beginning, very different in what those two guys have shown throughout their college career, right? When you think of, let's stick with Omarion Hampton to start off, right? This is a guy that ultra productive at UNC. 281 attempts last year. 1,660 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns, and he also added 38 receptions with that. And he's been consistent not only in 2024, but in the previous year when he also led the ACC in rushing yards with 1,500 and also had 15 touchdowns, 29 receptions. I'll share just some of my takeaways from him just watching a couple of games, but he's a guy that can really take an offense to that next level at the running back spot. And if you're Ben Johnson looking to add another playmaker, a weapon, like he described at the NFL owners meetings, Omarion Hampton definitely fits that bill. But then you do have Shemar Stewart, an athletically gifted freak who RSS score is going to fill out everything. But RAS score. I don't know why I said RSS, but production just hasn't been there for Shemar Stewart. 2024, 2023, 2022. I mean, he has 2 sacks in each of the last 3 seasons, 6 total. So he's been consistent, but he hasn't gotten to the quarterback. And I got a chance to see Shemar Stewart up close in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. And I was really impressed by his get off, the way he was winning some of those one-on-one reps. I'm like, wow, okay, this guy definitely could be on the Bears' radar. I said that early on after my time in Mobile, Alabama. But then I just started to watch more game film of him. And that view has changed. And I'll get into it, but completely different players in terms of what they've done in college. And just it creates, I think, an interesting situation for the Bears of how they can view either one of these guys if this is who they're kind of zeroing in on with that first round draft pick. Because I think both these players are going to end up getting drafted in the first round. And I've seen mock drafts up to this point where they've both been taken at pick 10. Shemar Stewart, Texas A&M, and North Carolina's Omarion Hampton. Fascinating conversation. But I want to know, if for people tuning in, coming in, hanging out, who would you take if you had to select one of these players? We'll say right now, the scenario I'm putting out there, if you had to pick one of these players at 10, who are you selecting? Are you selecting that edge rusher to go opposite of Montez Sweat, Dio Adangbo, kind of add another playmaker to that defense for Dennis Allen, who, like I said, hasn't had the production, but man, he has all the traits. He shows some flashes that you see why he's rated as high as he is. And, that's also been an interesting thing with Shemar Stewart. You look at a guy like Dane Brugler, a lot higher on him than maybe like even PFF is. So it's a lot of traits. Or you can go with a guy like Omarion Hampton. Not Ashton Genty, not the Ashton Genty type of player, but has a lot of great qualities. Love his running style. To me, he's always leaning forward. I loved watching that in the games. I'll get to some of my takeaways here in just a sec. But is that too high to take the second best running back at 10? So position value also factors in here. And now let's kind of just get into it, because I want to start with Omarion Hampton first, because naturally I think it's a little bit more fun to talk about the running back and the offense first. So let's start with him, and then the second half of the show, I'll share my takeaways that I had from Shemar Stewart just from the games I watched, and also share. I have the beast over to my left here to kind of compare like some of the takeaways that Dane Brugler has, what I had just watching film. Then we'll all, come to a conclusion, so to speak. If I had to pick one of these guys at 10, who am I going to pick? And then what would I actually do? And also, please chime in here as we're kind of talking about both these players and what you've seen, what you've read, and we'll get to a conclusion here. All right, Omarion Hampton. So I watched just this morning, watched two of his games versus Georgia Tech and also versus Florida State. Georgia Tech, 18 carries, 137 yards, 71-yard run was a long for that game. 4 receptions, 12 yards. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of my notes, but I did end up kind of summarizing what I saw in that game against Georgia Tech. So I start off my summary here. Georgia Tech and the North Carolina offense did a good job of limiting explosive plays for Hampton. A couple of those longer runs that Hampton had in the game got taken back due to penalties. So not only was Omarion Hampton going against the 11 defenders of Georgia Tech, but also some of his own teammates at North Carolina. But I have here, I love the way he battles through arm tackles and continues moving his feet. It's consistent in his game. Will allow blocks to be set up and then hit the hole. Didn't have many opportunities for pass catching opportunities. Again, only had the 3 catches for 12 yards? That's like four catches for 12 yards. Also kept out of the end zone despite goal line carries, but did have several defenders all over him and tried fighting through those blocks. Did get flipped because he didn't get low enough, but more of a one-off than I think a consistent thing with him in this game. Also shows some good reps picking up the blitz. So this one, I think this game kind of left me wanting to see a little bit more out of Omarion Hampton, to be completely honest. Went over 100 yards, had the 71-yard long run, but still I was like, okay, let me see more. Florida State showed me everything I needed to see out of Omarion Hampton and why he's an exciting football player. And knowing that he was at Halas Hall on Monday, according to his Instagram story, hey, that's, I think, a dynamic playmaker that could easily provide a boost for the Bears offense when you're looking at what they can do at the running back position, added with DeAndre Swift. But in that game against Florida State last season, 32 attempts, 172 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 receptions, 93 yards. And then here's my summary of that game. You saw everything you wanted to see from Hampton against Florida State. Big playability as a runner and pass catcher. 2 times as a pass catcher, made that first man miss and made an explosive play happen. 3rd down early in the game on a simple flare route. The pass was a little bit late, but Hampton catches it, makes that first man miss, takes the ball upfield down the right sideline. As a runner, he is patient but will hit the hole when he sees it open, constantly fighting through tackles and dragging defenders. Contact balance was on full display, getting low with his pads, making himself small and then bursting through lanes. He's not just looking to hit a hole, stutters his feet at times and then explodes, allowing blocks to be set up, constantly leaning forward for additional yards, complete package in this game. Yeah, it was really apparent. Even watching Georgia Tech and then this one, how you're going to see Omarion Hampton when he's even running to get those tough yardage, legs constantly are moving, and he's always falling forward. That was something that we always said with David Montgomery when he was with Chicago, even when he played at Iowa State back in college. But leaning forward and understanding that it's okay to get the 3 to 4 yards and not always looking for the home run. That's what I noticed about Omarion Hampton. He's not just looking for that big play every single time because most times it's not there. And that's I think a good level of understanding of what the play is allowing for the blocking concept, but also what he's being asked to do on a specific run play. And that's something that Eric Bieniemy has even talked about, with DeAndre Swift. You got to be, and I think that was on the Bears official podcast with Jeff Joniak, that you need to be okay with getting some of those tough yardage where you're not going to look to, gain 6-7 yards, but more 3 to 4. I see that in Omarion Hampton's game, and I like that about him. And then when he gets to that second level, he does have just looking really quickly at his 40 time that he ran at the NFL scouting combine and not as pro day. I believe it was 4.45, if I'm not mistaken, 4.46. So he does have some good speed to go along with him, but he bounces off tacklers, man. He bounces off tacklers, and he's going to make you have to make a secure tackle to bring him down. And that's, again, something that when you get to the next level, yes, he's probably going to take a bunch of hits, and it's probably going to wear on him over time, but he is going to make that all 11 on the defense work. And I do really appreciate that about his game. And really quickly, that's what I was seeing, watching, the games that I did, but from Dane Brugler himself in The Beast. Obviously, he goes into a lot more depth here in what he's seeing, but, a lot of the same things that, I was saying, but obviously with more detail. Tilts field downhill with forward lean to barrel through half tackles, above average initial burst for 220-pound athlete. That too, he's a big dude. Reads blocks well at the line of scrimmage to press hips of blockers. Accelerates cleanly off plant foot to transfer speed in and out of breaks. Transfers ball to correct hand to protect against fumbles. Only one in 2024. That's, again, small, subtle details. Keeping the ball secure and knowing when you're near the sideline, put that ball in the outside hand here so that if something were to happen, the ball falls out of bounds as opposed to being inbounds. Some of the things he mentioned for the weaknesses for Omarion Hampton, and this I definitely agree with. Lack of swivel and hips creates tightness in turns, which limits open field creativity. When he does get in the open field, it's not that he has this. He's not shifty like a DeAndre Swift. I will say that. Like, you're going to see DeAndre put a move, a head fake, and doesn't have that tight of hips where he can then make another move. That's not Omarion Hampton's game. It's more so, just on one of the plays I'm remembering on a screenplay, it was a stutter, kind of slows down the defender, and then a stiff arm, and then go. And hey, whatever works, he works. But that's just not a part of his game. He has here will make himself too big a target through the line of scrimmage. I can agree with that. I also saw times where he has this forward lean, you guys. If you go watch either one of the games that I just mentioned, Georgia Tech or Florida State, you'll see it where he's lowering that shoulder and I think getting smaller as he's going through the line of scrimmage. And then again, leaning forward and like Brugler said, like I said. So I like that. Willing to power into contact, but not always through it. Yeah, he absorbs contact. I would agree with that as well. But, there were I think those plays actually came up a lot more than I would have liked to see, especially on the goal line. And I'll be honest, guys, UNC on some of those plays that I was watching in the red zone where, there are 2-3 guys in the backfield. And then Omarion Hampton's breaking one, trying to find any daylight to then try to get the, into the end zone. There was a couple times where he was stopped. There was 4th and goal opportunity. He was stopped in the game against Florida State. It took 4 tries to get into the end zone, eventually but yeah, you could see that a little bit there too in his game. But I still overall, like, just watching those games, reading notes, and just watching other clips of him, really impressed with Omarion Hampton. I really am. And he's going to be a good football player regardless of where he goes to. But, as I'm kind of thinking with the pairing of a DeAndre Swift and Ben Johnson, I think that can work. He's not the he's not your thumper, your knuckles, so to speak, how Ben Johnson, Sonic and Knuckles, but he does have parts of that element in his game. He also has the ability to pass block too. I think he showed some really good reps on tape of being able to fit those blocks and take attack or take a linebacker coming down full speed and stonewall. You love that. That again makes him able to stay on the field for all 3 downs. So really a weapon. I would, again, if you're looking at how to diversify from just saying a running back, he is a weapon. He also has that pass catching ability as well and can turn some what should be smaller, minimal plays into those explosive ones just by making a man miss. Again, not doing it in like a shifty way, but doing it in a way that works best for his skill set. So I do like that, again, out of Omarion Hampton and what I was seeing on film. And then really quickly, PFF does a really good job of just kind of the splits, where he runs in terms of like a zone grade, 88.6 grade. So that's something that Ben Johnson utilized a lot, especially last season. Also going to be someone that utilizes gap run schemes, 78.9 grade for Omarion Hampton last season. Yards after contact per attempt, 4.35. PFF has their color-coded grade circles, and that's it's a blue, which means it's over all the way to the right, which is positive. So again, lots to like with Omarion Hampton, and I think that's where. So right now, as you're kind of taking in that information, Omarion Hampton, would you be okay with him being on the Bears if Ashton Genty's gone? If Ashton Genty's not there, do you want the Bears to take Omarion Hampton in the first round, or do you rather wait for other guys like Judkins out of Ohio State, Travion Henderson out of Ohio State, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa? I know that people like Cam Scattaboo, like there's a bunch of options, but would you be like an absolute necessity? I need to have Omarion Hampton if I can't get Genty, or are you willing to wait? Most likely second round, because I do think that if you're not trading back with somebody in the first round, you're not going to be able to get Hampton at 39 or 41. That's just how I see it playing out. Maybe it ends up being differently, but that's just what it feels like at this moment, given what he's done on tape and the type of playmaker he can become at the NFL level. All right, guys, before we get into what I saw out of Shemar Stewart and also, what Dane Brugler sees out of him, I think it's a good opportunity right now to just take our first break. And then, we can get into ultimately what I would do if you had to pick at 10, either one of these guys, what I would do and what realistically the Bears should do. We'll get to that later in the show, but let's get into that first break. And I have to tell everybody about my friends, hopefully your friends at this point now too, Windy City Sports Cards. They specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports, whether you're a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, or Blackhawks. They've got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. In addition to their Chicago-focused items, everybody, they also offer a vast collection of sports trading cards and memorabilia from your favorite teams and players. So visit their online store to find exactly what you're looking for to complete your collection or to discover a new favorite. You can check them out at 312windycitysports.com. That's 312windycitysports.com. And of course, I have to tell everybody now about my friends at Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville, the one-stop shop for all your needs. What I mean by that is sales, service, parts, and body shop. It's all available at Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville, located on 1050 South Milwaukee Avenue in Libertyville, Illinois. The team prides themselves on their service, winning Dealership of the Year twice. And you got to check out their website at AbletonCadillacLibertyville.com to see all their new and pre-owned vehicles, including the new all EV Cadillac Lyric. Also, subscribe to their YouTube channel to view more of their vehicles, which you can find in the description below. Ableton Cadillac of Libertyville, your one-stop shop for all your needs. All right, you guys, this is the Nicholas Moreano Show. I'm your host, Nicholas Moreano, and we are talking about Omarion Hampton, and now the conversation switches to Shemar Stewart. And I will be completely honest, the more I watched Shemar Stewart, the more confused I became about him as a prospect. Because to me, when you factor in that the production was not there, it just wasn't there throughout his collegiate career. For whatever reason, there are a bunch of reasons based off of what I was seeing on tape really quickly. And I'll share this, and I'll also compare what, Dane Brugler from The Athletic is also seeing. He's ranked edge number 3 in the Beast, and out of his top 100 prospects, number 9. Again, he's a polarizing prospect. I bet you talk to 10 people about him, you're going to get 10 different answers. Maybe some favoring him, some favoring the opposite of what he can do at the NFL level. So I watched his tape this morning against Missouri last season. So Armand Membu was a guy that he went up against. He also went up against the left tackle there at Missouri. And then also his game against LSU. A lot of those reps came against Will Campbell. So here's what I saw against Missouri in 2024. One kind of just going through my notes, a guy that will line up on the outside, inside a little bit, stand up, hands in the dirt. So a little bit of variety in how he was being utilized at Texas A&M. But here's the synopsis of what I saw against Missouri. The tape against Missouri wasn't great. Didn't see a pass rusher who displayed a rush plan going up against Missouri tackles. On the reps, he did show flashes. It was with the get off and then fighting through blocks to make the quarterback uncomfortable. Nice closing speed on ball carries, but also took some plays off, including a 3rd and long that led to a quarterback running for a first down. This game left me wanting more to see what the hype is about. And you know what? To expand a little bit more, you are going to get a good player that has a good motor. Someone, I think, consistently, I know I mentioned a play that he took off, but for the most part, he was the guy that was tracking down ball carries backside, someone that with his closing speed can make tackles in the backfield when given the opportunity. But what kept getting me as he's going up against Membu, the Missouri left tackle, at times, like, what are you trying to accomplish here? What move are you trying to utilize? How are you setting them up now for later in the game? I don't know if I saw that consistently enough in just what he was trying to do. So that kept me, like I said, wanting more to see what the hype is about. I have one of my notes here. 2-point versus Membu, tries to dip the shoulder and rip through, loses his footing. Like, it was a good move, but then he just, like, as he's finishing the rush or trying to bend the corner or trying to finish that play, something goes wrong there. Like the get off versus Membu, threatening the quarterback. Right guard has to come over to help. Quarterback forced out of the pocket and gets a pass off downfield for a touchdown. So there were reps. And again, it's where he can use that speed and acceleration that with the power to kind of dent the pocket. That's where you see him have success. Again, I just did not honestly see enough of it. So let's get to LSU. This was better. I'll say that for me watching Shemar Stewart. This was better. And obviously you're going against one of the best tackles in the draft in Will Campbell. So here's what I saw. Against LSU, Stewart lined up and battled against Will Campbell. For the most part, Campbell won that matchup. On the reps, Stewart had success. He lined up further outside the tackle, 7-9 technique, and used his quickness to get into Campbell's body and then powered through to close the distance to the quarterback. Also had a nice rep on the second play of the game, using his length to get under Campbell's pads, shoves him off. but he's not able to make the tackle on the running back. However, his lack of rush plan hurt him most of the time. Just didn't know how to attack and then counter against both tackles that he went up against at LSU. That would be my watch. Had a nice run stop for a TFL using speed to get into the backfield. Also lacked awareness on pulling blocks and took some shots. Yeah, there was a Campbell was down blocking, so Stewart thought he had like a clean kind of rush. I forget if it was, I think it was a running play. Bam. The backside guard and tight end just popped him. Took a good shot on the play. But again, there was obviously better plays in that one where you're seeing the power, you're seeing the speed, you're seeing more dent in the pocket versus Campbell. Again, that second play of the game where he uses he gets underneath Campbell's right hand arm, pushes him off to the side, the length, like Shemar Stewart, 6'5", 267, listed in the beast here, able to use that length to his advantage and, win that rep, but can't make the tackle on the running back. So you see flashes, you see the physical specimen that he is, but I didn't see the rush plan enough. To take a guy in the top 10 where you're still wondering, like, what is he best at? It's polarizing to me. It truly is. So let's go into and see. That's weird that in the beast he has him 6'5", 267, and then the first note of his strengths for Shemar Stewart, it's rare athletic balance and fluidity for a 285 pounder, which is it. I think he's closer to the heavier weight than he is the lighter weight. Let's just go through some strengths and weaknesses and you know what? Maybe let's see if I can. This might be a good idea to just share the screen here so you guys are not just listening to me talk about this, but see how this is going to work. How will this work here? We could present. We're going to share a screen. Pretty sure it's this one. Yep. Hopefully this works out, you guys, and hopefully you can see it well enough. Actually, this is, of course, Omarion Hampton. Okay, cool. So we are on the right track here. So let's get you over here. Nope, that's the same one. We're going to stop sharing real quick and then do that again and get the right share screen because I want this one. Boom. All right, let's share the screen real quick because, obviously I'm, if you're watching this, it's better to see the visual and hear me say what his strengths are. According to Dane Brugler, like I said, rare athletic balance and fluidity for a 285 pounder, explosive off the ball with flexibility to turn the corner and flatten. Use the long arms and natural power to stab and separate from initial blocks. Able to shake free with a cross chop, club rip, or a variety of different swipes. I don't know. In the games I watched, I didn't really see him do much of that. Rangy player and doesn't labor in transitions, allowing him to chase down ball carriers. Smart contained player and sets a hard edge. Yeah, he does play the run really well. I will say that. Use wide base and body flexibility to root himself at the point of attack. Rarely pushed out of his gap. Again, good run player. I will agree with that. Plays his butt off for all four quarters and competes with a competitive edge. Nickname the Menace. Okay. Does have versatility. 3, 4, 5, 7 technique. Got all that. Major finishing issues for the weaknesses. 26.9% missed tackle rate in college. Don't like that. Struggles to break down on the move and stay under control as a tackler. Too many flyby misses. Move-to-move sequencing as a pass rusher still in the developmental phase. No doubt about that. Can get caught upright at times and spends too much time hand fighting, leaving him late to react to the run. Yep. Basement level sack production, 4.5 sacks on 680 career pass rush snaps. And so with that, I'm not. Let's get into it now. Okay, that's Shemar Stewart. That's Omarion Hampton. If I had to pick one of these guys at 10, if I had to pick one of these guys at 10, this, for whatever reason, it just came down to these two players. As much potential upside that Shemar Stewart has, again, with the physical traits, not having the production that he did in college and potentially being able to reach a different level in the NFL, I'm going to Omarion Hampton. I know what I'm getting in Omarion Hampton, and I still believe there's more to be had with him, especially given the right scheme, a scheme like Ben Johnson's. Dan Rochar is the offensive line coach with a revamped offensive line. I think you're going to get a lot out of Omarion Hampton. And that also, that pick obviously directly impacts Caleb Williams, the offense, and, just will lead that unit to have a lot more success, hopefully, in 2025. So there's a lot of different factors there. I just think I still think there's a lot of projection with Shemar Stewart, in my opinion. And that's why when you're looking at even, PFF right now, Shemar Stewart is the 33rd ranked prospect in their big board. Dane Brugler has him 9th overall. So there's a big gap there. And I know just people around the league who have talked about him, like there's differing opinions on him. And that's where it kind of scares me. If you're taking this guy number 10 overall, a guy that has not produced in college when it comes to sacks, to be fair, let me see just really quickly his pressure rate, or let's see. We got pass rush win rate 12.4%. Not quite the blue tier, actually just right below it. Pressures, let's see. We had 33 hurries in 2024, 19 in 2023, and then 9 in 2022. So he has gotten better in that aspect. But to me, I think it's just too much of a risk, to be completely honest. Maybe he'll end up being a good player in the right system. And honestly, he would fit the physical makeup that Dennis Allen would like. Bigger defensive ends who could set the edge, would allow them to play with a lighter box and, hopefully provide some pass rush. But yeah, I'm not willing to go there. And I was higher on Shemar Stewart right after the Senior Bowl. After the Senior Bowl happened, I'm like, yeah, I could see this being a guy that the Bears obviously like, and they're bringing him in for a 30 visit. And, to me, I forgot who said this, to be completely honest. So it's not me, my thinking here, but, you bring in people for these 30 visits for the guys that you maybe have questions on, right? You want to find a little bit more information. Like if you know the guys that you obviously like, you obviously can still bring them in, but it seems like, 30 visits are also a good opportunity for any questions you do have on prospects. That's a good opportunity to get them in your building and have those conversations. And Shemar Stewart, according to Tom Pelissero, was at Halas Hall on Monday. I'm sure the Bears have questions. What happened with the production? Why wasn't it there? Things like that, but also how he can be a potential impact player for Dennis Allen and his defense as they're looking to just build their team. So again, to answer the question, Omarion Hampton versus Shemar Stewart, because they both visited yesterday, that's why this show is catered to just these two prospects. I would take Hampton if I had to take him at 10. Now, the other question, if it was me making the decision, I'm probably not making either one or taking either one at 10. I would obviously have to see what the board has available to me, but I want to see if there's any other prospects that would be, I think, a little bit more fitting for the 10th overall pick. I think they're both first rounders. And Shemar Stewart, he's going to go in the first round, I should say. I'm just up in the air about him. But I think that I would go a different route in general than having the second best running back at that 10th pick, and Shemar Stewart, who leaves me questioning just what he's going to be as a player in the NFL. I would go a different round at 10. I wouldn't draft either one, but if I had to, like I said, it'd be Hampton. I just think that there are still going to be quality playmakers left. I think the Shedeur Sanders situation is interesting now. The Giants, had him in, or Shedeur Sanders had a private workout, Giants attending that. The Saints and their situation with Derek Carr now makes things more interesting about what they can do at 9 right before the Bears pick. I think there's just going to be opportunities to get some good football players at 10. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a guy like Shemar Stewart or, the second best running back if Ashton Jeanty isn't available. And look, Dylan Campbell in the chat here, I like this. We can't afford to draft busts. No, you can't. Not with 10th overall, man. Not with 10th overall. Like, not that the Bears need to go. I see. I don't want the Bears don't necessarily have to go safe. Like, if you're picking in the top 10, I would think you want to get. I mean, obviously an impact starter playmaker type of guy on the roster, but he doesn't have to just be the quote unquote safe pick. But I just think Shemar Stewart's too much of a risk. That's to me. Erica coming in here. Mike. Oh, here we go. Mike Green at 10. Ooh, that one's interesting too. So these edge rushers, I'll be complete. These edge rushers, they're like Mike Green has a bunch of production. What, 16 and a half sacks at Marshall? Just off the top of my head. But they do leave you questioning. There's question marks about their game. And that's why, the consensus with this draft is that there's probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 blue chip prospects that you know what you're getting. And then the rest is more starters, but not the quality of players that we've probably seen in drafts in previous years. We have Illinois Jones. Let the Chiefs or Eagles or hopefully the Packers take Stewart. For some reason they go to one of those franchises. Would maybe Stewart ends up being the player that a lot of people think he can be. Who knows, right? Who knows? Especially if we went to the Eagles. Let's be completely honest. If Shemar Stewart goes to the Eagles, don't you just automatically think he's just going to be one of those impactful playmakers on their defensive line that not only he doesn't even obviously won't even start, but like is somebody that's in rotation and gets a good amount of reps, is still super productive. Like that just seems super fitting, right? If the Eagles were to end up with somebody like that. It makes sense. I mean, that's what they do. They keep addressing the trenches. Bears have started to do that in free agency, which is great to see. Jonathan Otten, good friend of the show. What position do you think is the biggest need? So after the NFL scouting combine, I would have said edge rusher. That's what I said, edge rusher. And now at this point, I mean, we are less than 10 days from the first night of the draft. Your biggest position of need right now, given the uncertainty with Braxton Jones and his health, I know Ryan Poles really still wants to believe in Karan Amagaji. I would still put left tackle as your highest need right now. You just need to make sure that position's right for Caleb Williams in year 2 of his development with Ben Johnson in year 1. And you can't have that position be a liability. You don't want to see Braxton Jones have any type of setback. And I'm just not quite ready yet to say Karan Amagaji is going to be, this next starting caliber left tackle. He hasn't had a fair opportunity to show that he is or isn't yet after his rookie season, which had plenty of downs and a few, flashes of upside when you look at that Washington Commanders game. But I'm just not quite there yet or wanting to put all my apples in one basket there. So if Ryan Poles identifies a left tackle that he believes is better suited to provide more stability at that position, then he goes and does it. But edge rushers right there for me. Running back as well. Safety. Just finding that safety of the future. I'm hoping that Jaquan Brisker stays healthy. I want to see him ball out. I really do. And I don't know if that will even be enough for himself to earn a second contract in Chicago. But if he could stay healthy, I mean, the Bears have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. I don't think that's a crazy statement to say, given who they have. You have 2 players at the cornerback position, paid highest at their respective positions in the nickel cornerback and Kyler Gordon, and then Jalen Johnson, who will now be in a different scheme with Dennis Allen, who's going to be asked to shadow. So secondary is going to be elite with who they have, but you need to have Jaquan Brisker stay healthy as well. So, yeah, those would be my biggest positions. And I think too, like you need to be looking and thinking about your after Joe Thuney, because the extension has still not been done with him. Hopefully that is something that is in the future, works for Ryan Poles and Joe Thuney to get that at least 2 more years. So he's just not a one and done. But thinking about interior O-line and having quality players there to fill in for Joe Thuney once he's gone is something else to be looking at. Linebacker too. Linebacker is like TJ Edwards last year of his contract. He also Jack Sanborn goes to Dallas. You have Ogbong Mamiga as your guy that you re-signed to a 2-year contract with more of a special teamer than he is going to be a quality starting linebacker for you. So there's definitely still positions. And now that tight end's not a need, you have Cole Kmet, you have Durham Smythe. But if you want a different type of playmaker, you can add that. Shoot. Third wide receiver. Who it Olamide Zaccheaus, probably your front runner. But if you're like the Bears have been some of these 30 visits or some of these visits at Halas Hall, they are bringing in wide receivers, right? They are bringing in a bunch of guys to just look at, evaluate, see if they can bring in a young guy as opposed to some of the veteran players that they already have on the team. It's not you're in 11 personnel most of the time when you're out there on offense. So if you obviously, I think Olamide Zaccheaus is going to get that first opportunity. But if you find someone that you can't pass up in round 3, shoot, I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do in round 2? Like everyone feels like it's just going to be, maybe a running back or still address the trenches. But what if they go skilled player with 39 or 41? Could be an option. Illinois Jones here with a question. Nick, is the left tackle from Texas worth 10th overall? Yes and no. Right? Talking about Banks there. Calvin Banks. I don't know why I was blanking on his first name. Calvin Banks Jr. Got a chance to talk to him at the NFL Scouting Combine. Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I liked his tape, I think, a little bit more than some people do. I know that Brad Biggs from the Chicago Tribune took him in his latest mock draft with that 10th overall pick. So if the Bears made that selection, I'm not going to actually be mad at it. I'm not. But he's also one of those polarizing type of prospects. I like him when he gets out in space, looking to punish smaller defenders and, does have that athletic ability. Again, if you're making that move, you're saying that he is going to be better or is already better than what you have at left tackle. As any left tackle that they draft, obviously. He's going to be out there and be the one that you would think is going to be starting day one. I don't think you draft a tackle top 10 and not have him start. So, yeah, I like him more than some people do. But actually, let's see where he's at in the Beast here, because we have that resource. Kelvin Banks. But that's right. Dane Brugler also has Kelvin Banks as a guard. So guard number 2, 6'5", 315, top rank in the top 100. He's ranked 26th. That is right. I remember reading that. I'm like, oh, okay. Lack of desired arm length. So for weaknesses for Kelvin Banks Jr. to continue with Illinois Jones' question here. Lack of desired arm length leads to more catch blocks than you'd like to see. Longer arm defenders can break him down and access his edges. See 2024 Georgia tape. Yeah, that was not a good one for Kelvin Banks. Spends too much time on the ground, falling off dive blocks in the run game. Flagged 7 times. Well, there you have it. I mean, just because one person has, a particular player projected to be something else in the NFL doesn't mean another team doesn't. So it all depends on the team, what their preferences are and how they're going to go about utilizing that player to the best of their abilities in the system that they go to. That's really all it is. But like I said, I like Kelvin Banks more than most. I'm hoping we have here from Michael Williams. I'm hoping Bears don't miss out on Gray Zabel, North Dakota State. Learning from Thuney would be great. That would be awesome. That would be a great pick for the Bears. Having that, and the thing with Gray Zabel, I mean, position versatility. Like, he was playing tackle out there at North Dakota State, but he most likely projects more of an inside guy and left guard, right guard, center. Like, I think he can do it all. And He showed some really, really good reps at the Senior Bowl when I was down there, and I like him a lot. So if he were to be someone that gets drafted by the Bears, he's also looking like one of those first rounders as well. Actually, where's Gray Zabel? Is he guard number 1? No, it's got to be the kid from Alabama. Center number 1 for Gray Zabel. Okay. And Dane Brugler's the beast. No wonder. But yeah, he would be a great developmental type of guy to learn behind Joe Tooney, learn behind Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, if he's going to be playing center in the NFL, right? You just wouldn't reap the benefits of that pick right away. So you got to think, well, if the Bears are looking to get day one starters, impact players now, well, Gray Zabel, I don't think Gray Zabel factors into that conversation unless you're already thinking that Joe Tooney isn't going to be here past the season, which I think would not be a smart move on their decision. So there's a lot of different things that the Bears can end up, different philosophies, I should say that the Bears can end up utilizing in the 2025 NFL draft. But guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode. This is it's been fun kind of just talking through these two prospects. We'll definitely, want to get into more of some of the players that have visited Halas Hall to kind of highlight them and what they bring to the table. Caleb Johnson, Iowa running back, there at Halas Hall today. That'll probably be somebody that you'll hear me talk about here in a little bit. And I already did an episode. Was it during the draft, after draft? I don't even remember. Or during the combine or after the combine where, spoke to my old professor at the University of Iowa, who also covered the Iowa Hawkeyes, talked all about Caleb Johnson. So you can find that in my YouTube feed here. Before we close it out, though, as I have been doing the last couple episodes, if you're looking for a protein drink alternative, you have to check out Protein 2.0. Not only are you getting 20 grams of protein, but also 350 milligrams of your electrolytes, and doing that all with just 90 calories. And this flavor I have here is orange mango. Tastes phenomenal. And guess what? Everyone does Amazon shopping. You can do your Amazon shopping. You can get Protein 2.0. Also, you can now pick up Protein 2.0 in Target. Everybody loves a Target. Check them out next time you're around there. Let me know when you get your Protein 2.0. Send me a DM or on Instagram, whatever you want to do. Let me know when you try it. You'll thank me later, but 20 grams of protein, 350 milligrams of electrolytes, only 90 calories, and it's not the same as all those whey protein shakes that, honestly, some of them don't taste great. This is going to be not only great tasting, but good for you. So check out Protein 2.0. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nicholas Moreano Show. Please, if you haven't already, give this show a like, share it with a fellow Bears fan, leave a comment. Omarion Hampton, Shemar Stewart. You had to take one at 10. Who you taking? And if you had to take one in the first round, so move back. Do you find value in a Shemar Stewart in the late teens? Do you find value in Omarion Hampton in the late teens? Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking the Bears should do if they had to select one of those two types of players. I think it's a fascinating conversation, and they're both completely different in terms of what they did in their collegiate careers. But that's going to do it, everybody. I will be back most likely tomorrow around the same time, 11 a.m. Central Time. So make sure, like I said, subscribe, like, comment. And for the audio listeners, leave a comment on these podcasts. It's going to help the algorithm. Subscribe, like, 5 stars, right? Got to be 5 stars. Hopefully, get those 5 stars from you guys. But that's going to do it for this episode, you guys. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. But until then, adios, Bears fans.
Bend over to your right. What the was that?
What's up, Bears fans? People want to hear me talk.